Bam. Cheers, everybody. Welcome back. And today, I wanted to present to you guys 4 ideas from Neville Goddard. These are actually from a lecture of his called The 5 Lessons. And these are quotes from there. And they're 4 big ideas that I think a lot of people get wrong in this community. So I'm going to go ahead and read the ideas here. We're going to discuss each one, and I'm going to point out the caveats. I'm going to point out the things that I think people kind of miss the mark with, and the real idea that's being conveyed, that Neville was attempting to convey, even though people may have misunderstood it or what have you. So let's begin. All right. So number 1, this is a quote. Let us leave these schools of thoughts that use affirmations and denials. The best affirmation, and the only effective one, is an assumption which, in itself, implies the denial of the former state. The best denial is total indifference. Things wither and die through indifference. They are kept alive through attention. You do not deny a thing by saying it does not exist. Rather, you put feeling into it by recognizing it, and what you recognize is true to you, be it good, bad, or indifferent. All right, so what does he mean by, first of all, let's look at the first part of this. The best affirmation is an assumption which implies the denial of the former state. So the denial, then he goes on to say what denial is. Denial is not denying something. It's not actively saying this is not here. Because when we use the mind, when we work with the mind really can only process things in terms of positives. When we say, don't think of a black cat, what pops into our mind? Immediately, when we say, don't think of a pink elephant, our mind gets flooded with an image of an elephant that is pink, some form of shade. It could be a cartoon elephant. It could be a realistic looking elephant. It could be some sort of, representation that our mind comes up with, but it comes up with something that internally represents what it is that we say that we don't want. That is why people keep getting what they don't want by focusing on it. The only way to truly deny, as he is saying here, is to take our attention away from what it is we do not want. We gently shift and move our attention away from it, right? So, people have a tough time with this. That's why people keep getting and keep focusing on what they don't want and keep recreating the same thing. That's why you see people that claim and they say so vehemently that they don't want X in their life, whether it be a certain type of toxic relationship. It might be a certain financial situation. It might be a certain state of health that they keep receiving because they're focused on it. When you focus on something, when you put your attention on something, you are energetically agreeing to that thing. The universe operates through agreement fields, and everything that you put your attention on is in a form, you are agreeing to that thing. So how can we resolve this? Well, that's one way that robotic affirmations, as a tool that I discuss a lot on this channel, a lot of people say it doesn't work for them. Well, that's a separate video, why it doesn't work. We can get into that in another video. Let me know down below if you want me to cover that in depth with its own video topic. But what I can say in this video, in the context as it relates to what Neville's saying here, is that when you keep affirming something, but you are thinking and feeling like you're affirming, but you are still focused internally on the lack of it, that's why it's not working. The best way that I can explain this is to say, instead of white curtains, instead of black curtains, you want white curtains, right? But your focus is on the fact that you dislike the black curtains. So by focusing on the black curtain so much, even though you're saying white curtains, white curtains, white curtains, if you haven't truly shifted the internal dialogue so that you are now operating from a place which is, instead of resisting the black curtains, instead of resisting what you don't want, you operate in a space of kind of neutrality. Like it's kind of just there. It doesn't really matter. Like, yeah, the curtains are black, but it's like, it's not getting any emotional pull from you. It's not carrying this emotional weight of like, like I hate these black curtains. I wish they'd go away. I want white curtains. But you're feeling like that resistance, that energetic tension that still exists between you and the black curtains. That's what's causing this not to work. I hope that makes sense. Like I said, I can go more in depth in this, but I want to go into all of these as it relates, because you'll find that as we continue down here, we're going to talk about neutrality as well. So maybe that will clarify some things. So the second thing, and let me just make sure. So you do not deny a thing by saying it does not exist. Right, exactly. You put feeling into it by recognizing it, and what you recognize is true to you. And we're going to cover what feeling means down below. What you recognize is true, whether it's good, whether it's bad, or whether you're indifferent to it. So number 2, in the book of Genesis, the story is told of Jacob wrestling with an angel. This story gives us the clue that we are looking for, that when satisfaction is reached, impotence follows. When the feeling of reality is yours, for the moment at least, you are mentally impotent. The desire to repeat the act of prayer is lost, having been replaced by the feeling of accomplishment. You cannot persist in wanting what you already have. So this is something that's interesting that we come to find as soon as we've accomplished our goal. It's interesting that he uses the analogy of impotence, because something that you may be able to relate to in your own life, I've heard that guys can relate to this probably more than women can, but it's almost like even using that example of having an orgasm. It's like as soon as you have that, your mind is like blank, because you've just fulfilled this act that you were in the process of doing, and this very pleasurable experience. A lot of people liken that experience to kind of a state of nirvana, or one of the most enjoyable and heightened experiences that we can have as human beings, right? And so the same can be said for any single time that you accomplish any big goal. It's like when you have this desire to reach this certain number of like income, or you have this certain experience that you've been wanting to have. Like for me, I wanted to fly private, right? And I was able to ride on this jet service called JSX, which is essentially like a ride sharing service that's on a private jet. And so I had that experience, right? But it's like when you have some sort of experience that you've been looking forward to, or you get into that relationship, it's like this feeling of like, yeah, like everything is just kind of, it just kind of is. And the feelings, the heightened emotional states, and all of the kind of pedestalizing the goals, whether it be for a person or whether it be for the goal itself, is kind of just gone. You're kind of like, there's a discharge, that energy. There was an emotional kind of charge before, that kind of tension that I'm talking about. I was talking about it in the context of resisting something. There's also a tension that exists energetically between you and something when you want it, right? When you're directing this, I want it, that type of energy. And that all kind of dissipates and fades away the moment that you have your desire, right? So the more that you can cultivate that, the more that you can cultivate before achieving the desire, that emotional indifference, as Neville is saying, I would use the word, maybe neutrality is another word that maybe that resonates better for you. But the more that you cultivate that neutrality towards your goal, the more that you are then stepping into the version of yourself that already has the goal, the more that in alignment that you are with that version of yourself that's not pedestalizing it. You've taken the goal off the pedestal. You see all these people, a lot of men that pedestalize women, right? Well, women can sense it, right? And so it's energetically unattractive, right? It's demagnetizing. The same dynamic that happens in human relationships also happens in terms of our goals. When we have this goal, this certain amount of money, or this particular relationship, or whatever it is, on a pedestal, we see it up here, we see ourselves as down here, and then there's that energetic tension that exists there, right? And so by taking it off the pedestal, by simply acknowledging it, that like, yeah, even when I achieve this, there's still gonna be issues, right? If I get that dream relationship, well, she's gonna do some stuff that probably is annoying to me. If I get that dream job or that certain amount of money, well, now there's gonna be extra work that needs to be done. There's gonna be more responsibility, and it's gonna be kind of a bitch in another way, right? Even if I get that dream car, now I'm gonna have to worry about the maintenance, the dream house, the landscaping costs, and it's gonna be some more shit I have to worry about, right? These types of ideas traditionally in self-help or in manifestation, everyone's always like, oh, you want to really feel these elevated feelings of emotion. I'm kind of offering the counter advice, and I think that Neville is as well right here, because is by acknowledging all the problems that exist in the goal, in the achievement of the desire, in the wish fulfilled, all of the kind of mundane aspects of that, that's one way that you can kind of bring it off the pedestal. You know, you understand that by engaging in business, when you're making more and more money, or as somebody that is on getting paid jobs and getting and signing these contracts, well, now there's more stuff that I have to be responsible for. It's not this kind of paradise that a lot of people, we see it as a paradise. You look at somebody on TV that has a big house, or that has that nice car, or that has that relationship, and it's very easy to slip into a state where you're like, oh yeah, they don't have any problems at all. And that's just simply not the case. In fact, more of the times, like Biggie said, more money, more problems, right? In many cases, the people that have these things and they post these things online on social media, wherever, they're just showing the fruits of the labor. You're not seeing any of the work that went into that. You're not seeing all the headaches. You're not seeing all of the delays. You're not seeing all of the kind of, to be honest, you know, when you're working and working on big projects, there's a lot that can go wrong. There's so many different moving parts to some of these things, whether you're designing a home, whether you are building a business, whether you are really doing any sort of worthwhile goal. And on the journey to complete that, I can speak for myself in regard to the house that we've been working on. There's been all kinds of delays, all kinds of issues came up. At first, it was going very smoothly, but as you begin on the path, you learn and you see that, okay, well, this is actually not what I expected. And it can happen with a relationship too. And it does for many people, right? A lot of people get into these, and there's that honeymoon phase almost that you get in, not only with a relationship, but with a goal itself, with your business, with your career. And you realize on the backside of things, that's why you see a lot of these internet gurus that pivot, or people on the internet that change careers, they do something else because it becomes exhausting. It becomes, it's not what they initially thought it was, right? So sometimes just by acknowledging that simple fact, you can essentially depedestalize the goal. So that's one way of doing that. Now, 3, the acceptance of the end wills the mean. And I just want to touch real quick on this again, that this feeling of being mentally impotent, or that the feeling of accomplishment, or that you can't persist in what you already have. It's like this blank feeling. It's like this feeling of neutrality. Yes, it just is. I just do have, I just am the sort of person that is able to have this. It's not like it's this amazing thing that's out of my reach. It just is normal for me. It's normalizing it. It's that state of neutrality, that feeling of naturalness. All right. And we'll get into more of this as all these ideas tied in together. So the acceptance of the will ends the means. Assume the feeling of your wish fulfilled, and your dimensionally greater self will determine the means. When you appropriate a state as though you had it, the activity of the day will divert your mind from all anxious thoughts so that you do not look for signs. You do not have to carry the feeling that some presence is going to do it for you. Rather, you know it's already done. Knowing it's already a fact, walk as though it were, and things will happen to make it so. You don't have to be concerned about some presence doing anything for you. The deeper, dimensionally greater you has already done it. All you do is move to the place where you encounter it. Okay, so essentially the main idea that I want to key into this is that you don't have to look for signs. In fact, many times as you're taking these steps towards your goal, you get the opposites. We've covered this in many videos before. And along the path gets revealed. You don't have to carry the feeling that some presence is doing it for you, Neville says, although it can be helpful to think that God is on your side, or that source energy is working with you, that the universe is conspiring in your favor. It can be helpful to think that you have a guardian angel. A lot of people do kind of visualization practices where they do, they visualize that. They visualize, different people and different practices. They even may visualize a deity that resonates with them, archangels. People have these various different practices, and it can help them as long as they believe that it will. But what's important for us to take away is that when we are getting into this state of neutrality, this state that we talked about previously, that we are becoming kind of as Neville says, indifferent, but focused, that our attention is on the wish fulfilled. Our attention is also on the process that we are capable. Our attention is on the self-trust that we believe in ourselves. Our attention is on all of the opportunities that exist rather than all of the negative things in our environment. Then our RAS, our reticular activating system, is then going to go out and search for all the positive things, all of the chances that we have to make this happen, all of the things, and our internal guidance system is then going to direct us towards those things. It's all about our focus. Acceptance of the end wills the means. That's the first line here, right? If we accept that the end is possible for us, that's the first step. That's what creates so much. Really, that's how we turn into our own worst enemies, is by not believing that it's possible, is by looking at by constantly seeing the glass half empty instead of half full. By saying, oh, that worked for them, but it won't work for me. You don't know my story. You don't know what I've been through. You don't know all of these things. You don't know, all of that. It's all of that narrative that's going on. And that's why we use this tool of robotic affirmations, really to get to the heart of the internal narrative. And the internal narrative, based on those kinds of meta affirmations that are saying, who am I, and who am I in relation to my reality? Because if I've been telling myself this story for years and for decades that I'm not deserving of this, I always get the short end of the stick, nothing ever works out for me, people are always trying to F me over, the world is against me, you're going to be in a state of fear. It's going to be paralysis by analysis. You're going to look at that project and you're going to say, yeah, that's too daunting of a task for me, especially for me with my track record, blah, 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 right? You go into that story. When you accept that it's possible, when you simply see that somebody else doing it is evidence that you can do it as well, and you begin to adopt and take on that self-trust, that self-concept that says, hey, look, if they can do it, there's no reason I can't do it, because start looking at all the successes that you've had. Instead of looking at all the past failures you've had, look at all of the reasons. And even if they are a bunch of failures, even if you look behind you and see a trail of 20 different failures, you're also looking at that saying, well, that just means I'm that much closer to my success, right? Anybody that's had success, they leave a trail of failure behind them. It's very rare that a person stumbles into their first thing that they do and achieve success. I don't know any entrepreneur, if you look at any of them, they always talk about how their first 10, 20, sometimes 30 businesses were all failures, right? Before they encountered that one success. So along the path, even though you might not realize it right now, those experiences, those failures are actually stepping stones towards your success. Within every single failure carries with it the seed of an equivalent or greater benefit, right? And so, that's just a whole twist on the whole thing. It's a whole twist on the whole narrative, right? And again, this goes into your mental dialogue, your internal dialogue, the chatter going on in the mind. So when people say robotic affirmations don't work, I can understand where people come from if they're simply using it as like a Band-Aid over this internal feeling of feeling incapable, feeling incompetent, feeling unworthy of achieving what it is that they want. But when you're using it and really going in and diving in to reprogram your mind, basically install a brand new operating system on this hardware that you have, you are really changing from the inside out, because you're really embracing a new belief. You're embracing a new conception of yourself. You're embracing it and doing it when you act in alignment with that conception of yourself. When you start to love yourself, because if you loved yourself, wouldn't you go for the thing, right? If you believed in yourself, wouldn't you go for the thing? Even just that self-love, that basic, most fundamental thing. When we love ourselves, then we start to believe that we're worthy. Then we start to believe that we're deserving. Then we take action. Then we allow ourselves we give ourselves permission. And that is at the fundamental, the crux of anything that we want to manifest in our lives. It begins with a degree of self-trust, which comes from appreciating ourselves, from loving ourselves, from giving that to ourselves from within, which then gives ourselves the permission to go for what we want, because we're not operating from that state of fear, that state of lack, that state of scarcity that gets thrown onto us by our external environment. It is something that we have been programmed with. Unfortunately, this environment that we're in, the external environment, tends to be primarily negative, right? So it is our duty, our job, not only for ourselves, but for our family, for our loved ones, for our future generations here on this planet, to begin to shift that narrative and begin to will what we want into existence and become that version of ourselves that can do, that can provide, that can be a beacon of, inspiration for others, somebody that is actually producing something, that is creating something in this world. That's the highest thing that we can do and achieve here, is to create and to influence those around us in a positive way. We are our own biggest project. We are our biggest work of art, no matter what we create. Instead of getting our self-worth all the time from all these external things, come back to the understanding that you are here and that your life's work may be something that other people don't understand. It may be something that you can't quite put your finger on right now. Most people can't, right? It's all a process. And getting back to that process-oriented approach rather than, I'll only give myself permission to feel happy like once I've achieved this thing. I'll only feel worthy like once I have this, this, and this. All of that stuff, it is very easy to get trapped into that. But if you go from that approach, you're going to have a really hard time feeling good. You're going to really have a hard time having a fulfilled life and a life where you enjoy the process, because you're constantly going to be seeking outside of yourself for that being okay and giving yourself permission to feel appreciation for yourself. You got to appreciate yourself. And at the same time, be and do what needs to be done, right? You're not going to want to just, the other extreme of this that gets touted a lot in the manifestation community is like, you just sit and visualize and be in them now. And, if you watch this channel, I don't really agree with that either. It's somewhere in the middle. The path in the middle is almost always the best path to take, which is to say that, look, I'm going to believe in myself. I'm going to give myself that love. I'm going to give myself permission. I'm going to trust myself. And sometimes it can help to have somebody outside of you to tell you that, to give you that belief, to tell you they believe in you. But if you don't have that, just look at this video right now as permission to believe in yourself. And once you do, that's when you will see the magic begins to happen, because that's when you begin to take the action. That's when you begin to really affirm and believe and really, really do and embody that new version of yourself that you can really be. It goes hand in hand. So when you are able to do this, that is when things will start to move. And that is why robotic affirming helps along this path. So you will walk, as it were, as Neville says here, and things will happen to make it so. All right. Now, 4, when I speak of feeling, I do not mean emotion, but acceptance of the fact that the desire is fulfilled. This is another thing that people often get twisted, right? It's not this crazy elevated emotion that you need to feel. I'm not saying that you're not allowed to do that. It's fine if you do, but really at the end of the day, what we're cultivating is this kind of neutrality. But don't get this confused with not focusing, because we want to practice this intense focus. It's like this alert awareness of what it is that we are bringing forth, that we are getting, that we're receiving, the awareness of what we're creating in our life, yet the neutrality towards it, just knowing it into being, just doing it, doing the thing, being the thing, but not placing so much importance on it, so much over heightened importance. Quick example that I can easily give you right now is just making YouTube videos, right? If every single time I was to make a video here, I would have these huge emotional highs or these huge emotional lows based on the amount of views it got, based on the amount of likes it got, based on the comments, I'm going to be going flip-flopping like an emotional mess all the time, going into huge spirals up and spiraling back down all over again based off some numbers on a screen, right? And that's not helpful to anybody. It's not helpful to me. It's also not helpful to the people that I'm creating videos, the people that are watching these videos, because I'm not going to be able to perform as well. I'm not going to be able to come up with good ideas. I'm going to start to self-doubt. I'm going to start to self-criticize. I'm going to start to have that negative self-talk, right, that we've been talking about. I'm going to start to lose that trust in myself. I'm going to start to have that negative story come in, right? And that's going to take over, and it's going to inform every single thing that I do. It's going to inform the way that I begin showing up, not only to create YouTube videos, but also in the rest of my life, other areas of my life, if I really allow that to take hold. And that's the issue that we have, guys, is by allowing ourselves to go into this huge emotional upswing, we're now, by the principle of rhythm, in the principles, the 7 Hermetic principles, as well as the principle of polarity, as well as the cause and effect principle. When you go up so high, you're bound to swing back down the other way. And that's, again, when I use this visual aid that I use very often, it's like, okay, you're ping-ponging back and forth. You get this very, very over-eager, overzealous, frothing at the mouth type thing, that craving, lustful type of energy towards whatever goal it is that you have. And then if it doesn't happen the way you want it, this happens in relationships a lot, right? That's one easy example, but there's a lot, it happens in all aspects of life. You ping pong back to this other emotion that says, oh, I'm not good enough. Oh, it's never going to happen for me. Oh, woe is me. That's why people always flip-flop back and forth as well between this kind of fake sense of superiority and then that sense of inferiority that happens. That's the inevitable kind of other side of the coin, right? When you come into this balanced way of being, this state of neutrality that say, hey, look, I'm confident. I'm not here to try to swing my weight around and try to, make everybody else feel bad because they're not, with this kind of blustering superiority complex. That's really what it is a kind of overcompensation and kind of facade for that inferiority that somebody's feeling. And you come back into this mode where you are confident, you trust yourself, right? You give yourself permission to act, to do, to be, to have the thing that you want. But at the same time, you're not flip-flopping. You're not saying, oh no, it's not good enough. You're not doing the anxious avoidant thing. You're not doing the anxious attachment and anxious avoidance. I forget like the exact terms in the attachment theory, but you're not going towards either end of the spectrum, toward either extreme. You're simply staying in the middle, focusing on what you want. Remember, the universe operates on agreement fields as the first point of these points as we discussed. And now from here, you are focusing on what you want. You are embodying it by taking steps towards your goal, by affirming it, by reorienting your self-talk, by working even in a somatic way, physiologically, doing breath work, feeling fresh air, just simple things too. Eating a healthy diet that's going to make your body feel good. That's going to make you feel more confident. It's going to get your hormones in alignment. It's going to make sure you're getting enough vitamin D so that you have enough energy to actually perform at the task at hand, whether that's even as basic as getting up on time in the morning or making yourself a healthy meal or engaging in your affirmation practice or whatever it is that you've decided to do to get your mind, to get your body right, getting into the gym, getting some physical exercise. And then you're going to be able to perform, be able to embody whatever it is that you want to do on a much better level, whether that's talking to people, whether in the context of working on your business, you're going to be needing to talk to people. You're going to need to enhance your presence and your alertness so that you're up to speed on everything going around, that you have really excellent communication with people, whether it is that you are building something, that you're working on something, right? If been working on this book, if you're creating a video, you need to be present, you need to be alert, you need to be aware, and you need to be tuned in, having good high energy so that you are tuned in to that divine kind of awareness and you are allowing that creative source energy to pour through you so that you are able to receive the information, receive those intuitive impulses so that you're able to do what you need to do in the best way that possible, right? You're being guided not only by what you think logically, but also what your intuition is giving you, right? Because there's always those little bursts of intuition. You always get that intuitive burst sometimes as you're doing something and you're focusing on the end, right? You're focusing on what you want. That's when all of this begins to work for you magically. And again, it goes back to your self-talk. So when people say, affirmations don't work, I don't know. Do they not? Because if you use them properly as a tool to reorient where you're oriented towards, to reorient so that you're focusing, you're becoming aware, and now you are agreeing to what it is that you want rather than what you don't want, then I think they work like a fucking charm, to be honest with you guys. So with that being said, guys, much love as always. Drop this video with a like. I hope this was really valuable for you guys. I like being able to go in and kind of give my own take on some of these quotes because I think that people, like I said, a lot of the time get certain Nevillisms messed up, and including the no action thing, free will, everyone is you pushed out. And so I wanted to cover these points here today. Let me know if you guys would like me to cover some other Neville points and kind of give you guys my own take on them, how I think that they can get misconstrued, misinterpreted. But I also share in the book that's going to be coming out very soon, in the book called The Robotic Affirmation Code, the formula for successful manifestation on autopilot. It's going to be released very soon, and it really does. It's 80 pages packed full of everything that I've learned about robotic affirmations, every single thing that I've learned, including techniques, the neuroscience, the quantum physics, giving all kinds of success stories from people, celebrity success stories, but also people that I've encountered over the years of looking and reading through success stories, my own personal success stories, people that I've known, as well as giving you guys actual affirmations you can use, giving you guys the tips and instructions of the best ways to use them throughout your day, kind of different ways to craft them, different words to use to increase their effectiveness, to increase your ability to kind of create engaging affirmations that you actually want to repeat, how to kind of record them, how to set up your own practice, customize your practice, step-by-step instructions for all of this stuff. And if you're really serious about beginning to take control and power back over your mind, click on the link down below. It's going to take you to my free ebook, which is a guide on how to remove your limiting beliefs. You'll be able to download that ebook. And by clicking on that and downloading it, you'll be added to a list where I'm going to be sending out a half off discount as soon as the book is available, where you guys will be able to download the book for half off. Like I said, I've been working really, really hard on it. It's like over 80 pages long. It's like almost closing in close to 100 pages, completely packed with every single thing that I've ever learned that as it relates to this way of being, this way of what we've been discussing on this video today, which is reclaiming your attention, reclaiming your focus, reorienting yourself so that you are focused and therefore creating what it is you want. And like Neville says, denying, taking your attention away from what you don't want. And there's so many different techniques. There's so many different ways, advanced techniques, complaining manifesting, manifesting from 3, 4, 5 steps past where the goal that you wanted so that it's presupposed fulfillment. There's so many techniques that I put in this book for you guys. And I really gave kind of my heart and soul into creating this. So like I said, if you're interested in it, download the ebook below, click the link below. You'll be added to the list for half off as soon as it comes out. That being said, guys, much love as always. Drop this with a like, hit me with a subscribe, be on the lookout for the book when it does release, and I will see you guys in the next video.